The reviewer here, continuing my anniversary specials with the next games in my top 10 favorite games list. And at number 5, we have Grim Fandango. Now I have a bit of a personal story with Grim Fandango. I played through Grim Fandango for the first time in about 2008. I never beat it. I didn't get very far. I think I got to like the Petrified Forest. Yeah, I got to like the Petrified Forest, and I think that was how far I got. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. I think I got halfway through year. Anyway, I got through halfway through year 2, and I always wanted to go through the game. And this year, the game was released on the Nintendo Switch. I finally played through it, completed it. I love this game. Like, I already loved it before. But I think it's dedication to a game when you can beat a game and then literally the next day you do another playthrough of it, like the next day. That's what I did with Crimson Dawn when I finally beat it. I played through it again because it's such a masterpiece. It's basically like Casablanca. Like, it's film noir detective story. It's everything. It's one of my favorite games, and it's a underrated masterpiece. And thank God the remastered happened. Like, thank God this got a remastered edition in 2017. Thank God. I'm glad this game's getting the love it didn't get back in 1999. Yeah. Anyway, and the next game is Bioshock. And this is another one I have a personal story with. There was a time where I did a playthrough of Bioshock, and I only died once. I'm not even joking about that. Like, only one time. I forget what point I was at in the game. There was only one time I died. I'm not bluffing. I hold my hand. Like, I actually managed to beat the game with only one death. I know that's a weird thing to boast about, but to me that was something to actually, like, I literally had a playthrough of a game where I literally only died one time. And that's impressive. Bioshock is one of those games that I played it back in 2007 when it came out. I loved it. And it's one of those games I've played through a couple of times because it's one of those games of, like, it's like definitely an art house game. Like, it's one of those, like, it's not an indie game, but it's like there's something about it. It's just so fascinating, and it's one of those games I love playing through. And I got the remastered collection on the PS4 because I love these games, and to have the Bioshock 2, which I like. A lot of people do not seem to like Bioshock 2, and I can understand why. I still really liked it. Bioshock Infinite is one of my favorite games from. Wow, I think that came out in 2009. That came out in 2009. That was my favorite game because that was one, for whatever weird reason, when I saw the previews of it, it didn't interest me for some weird reason. I don't know why. And then when I played the game, it ended up being one of my favorite games. Like, that's another game. That's another game. But I love Bioshock Infinite, and I think I think there is a new game in the works. I forget what the code name is, but I'm pretty sure there's a new game in the works for modern consoles, or the modern day consoles, and I look forward to it. Like, I'm hoping, like, because I know next year is probably going to be the real year when, like, a lot of new consoles come out, and I mean, because we've got, like, The Last of Us Part 2, like, all the, like, I think next year is going to be the year where we're going to either see games just be like, oh, that is it for PS4, or they'll continue. It's going to be interesting to see how long they continue along. So, no. Rambling. Um, my my third favorite game of all time is GoldenEye 007. Now, I'm a big James Bond fan, and GoldenEye 007 on the N64 is one of those games that has had an impact on me because, well, I love James Bond, and I'm not entirely sure, but GoldenEye maybe. Yeah, apologize in advance. Um, GoldenEye may be one of the games that like I first played on the end. Like it may be my first game of all that I ever played, or maybe Super Mario. Well, okay, so this is the first N64 game. Maybe even possibly. I think like I think it might be my first game I've ever played, and it's it's one of those games that I've seen people go, oh, it's has not aged well. I don't think that at all. I think it's one of those games that has aged really well. Like, I mean, yeah, it's clunky. The graphics aren't as good, but you had to put yourself into like the mindset when it came out in 1997. Because like back in '97, it was like revolution. Like it was one of those games, and it was one of those like revolutionary games, and it's like it's one of those games that just had an impact on me, and I'm always gonna remember playing through it. And my second favorite game of all time is LA Noir. Now, yes, I know about the fact that this had a really bad development. Like I know that, and I can acknowledge that the way they worked on the game was not. They could have done their work ethic. I'm just gonna say that. But this is coming from like I can put that aside because I'm a fan of detectives. I mean, for God's sakes, the hat, like, I could almost see a detective wearing a hat like this. And that's kind of one of the reasons I've always worn the hat, is because it's one of the things I've always done. I've always worn a hat in these videos from, like there's like few, there's probably some videos I haven't done a hat on. But if you were to go back and look at most of the videos, there's always a hat on. And this hat here, this hat has been on me for about 4 or 5 years, about around it, 4 or 5 years, and it's kind of like been the hat of the show. But anyway, the reason I love LA Noir is because it's one of those games that like it feels like a movie. In fact, there's literally a setting in the game where you can put like black and white filter on. And I'm seriously consider like I've wanted to play through it. I've got it there on the Switch. I want to play it like when I had the time. I want to just sit down and play this epic of a game again, and play it in black and white because I just feel like that'd be kind of cool. To be like, oh, it feels like a detective movie from the '30s, which makes sense because it was like yeah, '30s. Anyway, like I feel like playing that in black and white. I feel it would be kind of cool, and the game makes me feel like a detective, and I say that in the best way. And the other thing I really liked about the game, it might be a weird thing to say, but I liked how dark it got. Like, there's like, I forget really when, but there's like a certain point when the switch for dark, like, the dark of the game comes out. Like, there's just like a point when that switch happens, and when the switch happens, there's a certain mission when the switch flips is when the game gets really good. And I I love it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Or not one of my favorite games, that's still for tomorrow. And I cannot wait to talk about my favorite game. Not just of the last, it was just like my favorite game of all time. But one I would make a strong argument for being one of the best games in the past 10 years. And that's saying something. I'm not going to say what it is. Once you see it tomorrow, you know what game I'm talking about. The reviewer signing out.